Attend lectures, educational panels, and workshops learning from industry experts and mentors. There's a career expo that connects students and graduates with employers, and a tech expo that gives them a hands-on look at some of the newest technology in the field. Alongside these conference-style opportunities to learn and network, there's also a whole lot of fun. And lectures, educational panels, from the midway-style games, learning challenges of the creative experience, and the displays of students' creativity and community to interactive esports competitions, cosplay contests, and a giant block party, Hall of Fame Week is a tribute to our accomplished alumni and a celebration of the Full Sail community's creative spirit.
That was an awesome video. Welcome everyone, good day. Thank you for joining us on this Hall of Fame session. We are here today with the lovely, talented Margaret Haag. Now I'm Shirley Ramirez, that's my married name. I'm a course director here at Full Sail University from the Graphic Design degree program, and I'm here speaking to the lovely Margaret Haag. It's always a pleasure getting together with you. How have you been, Margaret?
Same here, Shirley. I'm doing pretty well. Hanging in, I suppose.
Awesome, awesome. So let's talk a little bit about you. Now, you graduated from Full Sail University in 2009. You became a Hall of Fame inductee in 2018, essentially 9 years later. Now, within that time frame, you created a college news app called The Buzz for Penn State. You created a CreditWise app for Capital One, and now you're a product design manager for Invitae, a biotech company. Now, you've been so busy. So busy. I don't know how you manage the time to work on these awesome, cool projects. So tell me, how is life like now as a product manager, product design manager for Invitae?
It's pretty good. I will say it's been fun. I spent 6.5 years at Capital One, which was pretty incredible. Essentially building a design team from I think less than 100 to, I don't even know. Their numbers are probably quadruple that now. It was fun to be part of what building that culture would look like. And then, I worked for CreditWise for 4.5 years and kind of had to, say goodbye to my baby. I knew my time was kind of up at that point. I could feel it, instinctively. And I think it's probably pretty custom for, people in the design field to feel that way, because we kind of get exhausted after a while. You put your whole heart and soul into something. So I remember having some sort of the same feelings about 2 years into it, 2.5 years. So kind of did a little soul searching and realized I wanted to still spend time there, spent the next 2 years there. And then I ended up switching teams and worked on an internal, a tool for internal data management of the company, which, data is one of our essentially most valuable resources at this point. So that was interesting to work on, something that's behind the scenes. So it's essentially to relate everybody who works at Full Sail, who puts on these events, there's levels of that, right? And everybody behind the scenes, I was definitely one of those people, doing the stuff that's helping people who help power, the stuff that goes out to customers. And then I grew kind of tired of that. It honestly wasn't very I wasn't very passionate about it. And I love people who are passionate about data, but it's very technical, which it's kind of not the same language I speak, right? I'm not a very systematic kind of person. I'm light and airy in my head in the clouds kind of thing. But I knew at the root of it, I wanted to help people. I always want to working on CreditWise and, kind of unraveling the whole system of credit scores, and helping to try to attempt, to unravel that for people. I really had a deep passion for that kind of thing. So I don't know if people believe manifesting is real. I do, for a long time, I was I know what I want something meaningful. And I would say it took me probably 10 months, and then someone who I knew, that used to be one of my bosses, like referred me to someone else. And then I, took the interview and I have the job, and I've been here for like 3 months, and it's been awesome. It's a smaller company, which I really like that sort of like hometown feel of it. Because it's a smaller team, a design team of maybe 16 people at this point, which is nice. And everyone's super talented and super fun. So it's good.
Now I have to ask, so we're currently going through the pandemic. Many people have, the pandemic itself has had many people rethinking what work means to them and how they are valued and how they spend their time. Now that has led to a dramatic increase in resignations or just overall change in a person's job. And one of the things that you mentioned was that you had made that switch recently from Capital One to now Invite. Now, would you say that was attributed to the pandemic that caused that change, or was this something that was already in the works prior?
That's an amazing question. Like an amazing question. Yeah, I would say absolutely. I think I've mentioned it to either my partner or, like somebody else, that like, I don't know if I'd be in the same position now had like life not been dramatically shifted. I think it like internally, maybe not externally, I wasn't like, what makes me happy, but I knew by the way I was getting up in the morning, which was, I don't want to go to work, I was feeling that. And I think after time of unraveling that and understanding, and I had done interviews always interviewing, I recommend to do that, to keep yourself in good practice. However, I was doing some interviews and, everything fell short, and I went through like one interview that was terrible. It kind of crushed me a little bit, but I was like, you know what, let me keep doing it and see if something comes along. So I ended up like, when this came along, it was honestly kind of a no-brainer for me. I was like at that absolute point where I don't think I was like, I cannot take it anymore. I knew I was kind of like at my breaking point. Like I either need to find a new job, or maybe I just need to like say goodbye and, just really hustle on interviews for the next couple of months and see where I land. Yeah. But I would say like some of the stuff that you mentioned, like feeling valued, like I wasn't feeling a lot of that. And which in turn was kind of crazy because I had spent 6.5 years there. Right. And I had met like tons and tons of people. I probably knew like 75% of like my team, like the whole team, and across like the entire organization. So not feeling a sense of value, man, when you're surrounded, it's like you're in a room full of like a ton of people and you still feel alone. Like that was kind of how I felt. So the switch was definitely morally boosting for me. Not to say I don't want to construe this as like anything bad about them. I think that, when we grow as people, like our needs change. And if someone else isn't changing with you, you become like incompatible. And I think that's what was happening to me. So I don't want to put that onus on them. It's definitely on me. And I was ready, I was ready for that switch. And it kind of like, I felt like and it was hard to let go of that job. There are amazing perks working there. Like I cannot even get into it. I loved it. Like I loved it. I loved the people I worked with. However, like we weren't seeing, I couldn't see any more opportunity there for me. So switching was just really imminent. And I feel like loads better. My mental health is just like kind of soaring at this moment.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And mental health is definitely something that has been in the forefront for many companies, and just in society in general. There's more of an emphasis on making sure that people's mental health, whether it be as an individual, an employee, takes precedence over, making sure that individual, of course, is in a good position. So good for you on making that change and making what works for you. I'm curious to know, by the way, so I know Capital One is definitely a much bigger company than probably Invite, based on some of the information that you have provided. Do you think that, what are the ups and downs to working for one versus the other?
Interesting.
And do you find yourself, like one of the things you mentioned was you didn't feel yourself valued. Now, do you think that was attributed because of maybe the size of the number of employees for one company versus this new one being a much more smaller size company?
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know if I looked at it that way. Probably that's a pretty big factor. But I will say, like, the boss I have now is one of the best bosses I've had in a while. Like every week he is like, "You're doing an amazing job." And I'm like, wow, I feel like I'm not doing enough, you know? So it I feel like I'm not doing enough because I think I was in a culture where I was like hustle, 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 hustle. And it's like the way that you're not valued, but like it's a weird calibration system. I'm not going to go into it. It happens twice a year. It's essentially called stacked ranking. So if anyone is interested in it, you can like go and Google it. It's an interesting way. I think it makes absolute sense in a finance world, you know, because there's numbers, you know, and values that you can attribute to that. But when it comes to like design, you know, and like stuff like that, it's like this weird kind of like gray bubble where you can't necessarily always figure it out because we all have different jobs, you know, like in the design like process itself. So it's hard to like assign a value to like, you know, someone doing, you know, running and changing a course of something, right? There's no metric in that. Like there's no metric in leadership in that way. It's like some of us could have the metrics because we were launching stuff and there was numbers to prove that, right? But not all of us do. So it gets kind of like interesting and weird. And I think that sort of like like culture thing that happened twice a year would stress me out, you know, and then being a manager there stressed me out even more because then I had employees to, you know, like kind of like, so I was essentially going through the process that I knew, and it was so difficult and it was hard to wrap my head around because I knew my manager was going through the same process for me. And I'm like, what's happening, you know, for me? You know, it's like, it's just like a really crazy, crazy thing. I feel like I lost my train of thought. Oh, the company size, right. So it's a little bit different here. They actually they offer this like constant feedback thing. So like you're always kind of entering stuff for people that you work with, which is cool. So like there's feedback consistently, which I pretty adore. And I think they call it like radical candor maybe or something. Anyway, yes, but probably I don't know. I'm like, is it people? Is it the size? It could be both things, you know? And it could be like certain cultures create certain kind of attitudes in the way people maybe like have to act, you know, unbeknownst to like who they are as a person, right? It's just like, this is how we have to get from A to B. I don't know if I'm being long-winded or if that makes any sense, but
No, I get it.
Okay.
So let's talk about how you started in this industry, because graphic design, some could argue that it's very different from what you're doing right now, being a product design manager and having worked in visual design, in UX and UI, user experience, and user interactivity. So how did you go from becoming a graphic designer and then leading into this new role as product design manager? Explain your transition. What were the doors that opened up that brought you from one area to the next?
Yeah. I had a bunch of crappy jobs in the beginning, which were pretty interesting. I was just like taking anything, you know. I think I talked about this little, maybe when Full Sail made that cool little video of me. I was like working at a gym. I was doing anything part-time. I was taking freelance work, like doing some branding stuff just for people who were starting smaller companies, needed logos. So I was really into that stuff. And then I had this one job where I worked in this really cool building. It was a mansion on the river, like an old mansion on the river in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. So it was like this old school building that was really neat. And we worked on, I don't even know if these things exist anymore, but we worked on like winter-free iPad, you know, like that kind of stuff. And it was like, who do you like better? You know, Edward or Jacob, like a whole Twilight thing. And it was so wild. I ended up getting laid off from there. I forget what happened. I think I came down to Full Sail as a studio artist for a little bit and then went back home. And I think, what was it? A little bit after that, I ended up finding a job at a small firm that was downtown Harrisburg in Pennsylvania. And it was this really interesting place to work because it was like half political marketing firm and then half like creative services. So I was doing a lot of branding, a lot of invitation design, some website design, and then we rebranded a community magazine. So once a month, we were able to like, you know, take our own photos, do watercolor, as all kinds of stuff that as it related. So I got to do like a bunch of magazine layout, which was like one of my dreams, you know, going to Full Sail. I was like, I want to be a magazine designer. It's so cool. And I remember how it felt like when I hacked my first iPhone, because I had T-Mobile and they didn't have any iPhones on T-Mobile. So I bought one and unlocked it. And I was like, man, I'm so desperate for this thing. And got like an Instagram, and I was like, wow, this is so cool that you can like do this stuff. And I don't think I realized at the time that it was like a job, you know, that you could have. And I don't even think it didn't even exist, you know, when I was at Full Sail. Like it wasn't really like a thing like it is now. So I was always like super, like as soon as that like whole iPhone thing took off, super obsessed with like technology and new products and how stuff worked. And then I was like, man, it'd be really cool to get into mobile design. And it's like one of the reasons I took that job at that agent, like the little agency, is because they said mobile design is part of it. And like I never did any mobile when I was there. So I had a connection. We used this app called Foursquare. I would go to the Planet Fitness in Orlando, and one day I stole this guy's mayorship, and he ended up friending me, and found out he worked at Golf Channel. He was also a designer, and he also went to Full Sail. And we never met in real life. We always stay connected online. So like power of like social media and all that stuff was like, we just had this random connection, and we were just really chill, and he was really cool to talk to. I was constantly posting my work. So I would always, obviously I was like single, so I had a lot of time to practice. So on my free time, I would like practice my craft, and I was like, how do I get better? So I would look at people doing awesome designs, and I would practice that for hours and hours, right? And I would add stuff to my portfolio, and I tried new experiments. And then this person that I had connected with before had a job at USA Today in Northern Virginia. And he was like, I keep seeing all your stuff, and I've seen it over the years, and you just get better and better with time. We have a position that's open for a designer. You don't need to know how to code, which was huge then. Like they weren't separate before then. It was like, if you were a designer, you had to know some code, you know, because you were like designing the websites for people and building them, which was, you know, the thing. And it's not so much like that anymore. But so he was like, you should totally talk to my boss. And I was like, okay. So I talked to his boss. I feel like that went cool. And then I went down for an interview, and it was like me and 7 dudes in this room. But I came stacked because I like brought one of the community magazines and put little Post-its in it, and like would hand them out and be like, if you turn to page this, had the whole portfolio. And then I turned one of my side projects into a like mobile app to show initiative. Because I remember, I feel like it was Eric Rosenfeld or something who talked about it a long time ago. There's this one girl who wanted a job at like, I can't remember if it was an airline or people who made planes. And she did a whole project relating to planes, and they gave her the job. And I was like, man, I should totally do that. So I like shows maybe I have initiative. And not kidding, within 24, 48 hours, they called me back and were like, do you want the job? And I was like, what? They were like, yeah, your visual skills are really, really great, and everything that you would learn would only be technical. So we want you to work here. And I was like, oh my God. And 2 weeks later, my whole life changed.
Awesome. Wow. Now you are a people manager, which kind of takes you away from some of that design process. How is that? Do you miss it? Like, what are the differences between being a people manager now versus, you know, being solely a designer?
Absolutely. So before I left Capital One, I was like strictly just managing people. So I had 2 direct reports, and then I oversaw a lane of work. So I was managing like managing the work of 4 other designers who didn't report to me. So it was an interesting way. It's like a lot of like moving around, you know, kind of seeing what's going on. I had a lot of meetings. I was like, my calendar was consistently stacked like all the time. So it was kind of brutal. And I, you know, going back to when we talked about the pandemic, like my happiness was like not there, because I love doing the work. I love it. I don't want to be away from it ever. Like I want it to be a part of, you know, like my daily routine. And it doesn't matter, I think, how, I mean, I don't have any visions of being a CEO because I really like my personal time, but if there's any advancement in my career, I would love to stay close to the work. One, because I love it and it gives me a lot of energy. And two, because I as like a manager cannot see myself trying to lead people when I'm not remaining current, like if I'm not leading by showing, like I feel like I'm failing and I don't want to do that. So now at Indie, since my boss just went on paternity leave, but I think the hope is that, so I work with a junior designer now. However, he's fantastic. And I think the goal is to like have him report to me, but I'm still, like leading, but now I'm like back to the work, which makes me happier. And I will say, for anyone thinking like being like a manager isn't possible, like to also do the work, it's actually, I think they're calling it like a hybrid. So they have like IC individual contributors, and then they have people managers. So I am like in that hybrid lane.
Gotcha. That's good. And I just want to remind the audience, if you have any questions for Margaret, please make sure to leave that within the chat window down below. All right, Margaret. So how do you balance? One of the things that you mentioned was that you love to design still. And maybe at your current position, being a people manager, some of those opportunities may not be as frequent as when you had first started. So what do you do in your spare time to keep those design skills up to par and definitely current with how technology is changing and ever evolving within this current day?
Yeah. So I do, I had this like music poster project that I was really into, and I keep them as ongoing projects on Behance. So they like never close, so I can add stuff when I'm feeling it. But I have another one where it's just like experimental UI. So I do that. If people are familiar with the UI, I think it's UI a day. I don't know, it's something like that. I always mess up the name, but they give you little prompts. So I've done a couple of those where it's like design a checkout experience, or what does like 404 screen look like, stuff like that. So I have like an ongoing project full of those things when I'm feeling it. I also I learned how to like hand letter, that like brush stuff, and I love doing stuff like that because I feel like it keeps me close to the visual design, graphic design, and also the poster project. I think graphic design is still my passion. I love being a visual designer in that way. Like I love like somebody will give you like a document and it's like full of text and they're like, okay, figure it out how to make it visual. And you're like, yes, I would love to. Yeah, so I do a lot of stuff, like creative stuff on the side as far as art's concerned, but I also I love to cook. I love to bake. I love to come up with like inventive snacks. It's kind of my thing.
Nice. What's your favorite dish to make?
Oh, wow. So I've recently discovered how to make like a really good ranch. Yeah, you take like mayo and then buttermilk and then the ranch packet, but then I season it like 3 times with cayenne and garlic powder and onion powder, and I get this and dill, and it's so good.
They're kicking it up a couple notches.
Yeah. It's so good. I want to like put it on everything.
Oh my gosh. So we briefly, before the interview started, we talked about your routine or your morning. If you guys don't know, Margaret is currently on the West Coast, while we're here on the East Coast. So she's a couple hours behind us. So tell me, what is your morning routine? So you got Oprah, who does meditation. You got Steve Jobs, that didn't have to worry about what outfit he had to wear.
Right.
Because he had the same routine of that black turtleneck with the jeans. What is Margaret's morning routine?
Okay. A note on the Steve Jobs thing. I noticed my boss always wears a black t-shirt. And so I asked him if he subscribes to the Steve Jobs like fashion blog or whatever. He was like, absolutely. I started it 10 years ago in remembrance of him. So every day for the last 10 years, he's only worn a black t-shirt.
Oh my gosh. It makes it so having to worry about what to wear.
Dedication, dude. Dedication. That's pretty, yeah, it was pretty impressive. So me, my partner leaves at like 5:20 in the morning. So I usually get up then. Like before this all happened, I would like shower, rush out the door, like that whole commuting thing. So now I take that like whatever time I think that I would spend commuting in the morning. I take like an hour like to myself to get out. I don't go on social media much, and I created a TikTok account, but I don't make anything. So I just kind of like see what other people are doing. Do that, usually like text with my mom for a little bit, and then snuggle with my cat because he'll always come for like a half hour of snuggle time. And then I get up and we have a stationary bike. So I ride that for like anywhere from 30 minutes to 45. And I either like listen to TV, watch a movie during that, or listen to music. And then I take a shower, get ready, sit down, do my whole like work thing, kind of like see what's my schedule going to be like for the day. How do I manage my time? If I have something due or something important, I see like where my meetings are and how I can, rapid fire work in 30-minute increments throughout the day. And I'm like, when am I going to eat lunch? What time? I also do a second workout most days. So if it's Thursday, I'll just get up and do boxing, and that's my whole day. But usually other days of the week, I'm looking at my calendar. So we have an all hands at 12:30, and it lasts for an hour, and you don't have to be on video for that. They do like a bi-weekly all hands. So I'll do my lifting routine for that hour and just listen to the all hands. And then I'll usually round out my day around like 4:30.
Nice.
Yeah. And then it's usually doing some sort of cleaning up around the place, cooking dinner, and then catching up on a show, and sometimes falling asleep on the couch.
Awesome. So I'm just curious, what is the show that has you hooked right now?
Oh, okay. Just started Succession, which I've already binged to the max already. Like there's no more new episodes. And that show is insane. It's like a train wreck, and I can't look away.
Okay.
Although I did watch Midnight Mass and I did watch Squid Game. So I've done a lot in the past couple of weeks.
Awesome. So I take it you're working remotely,
Mhm.
or you're working from home. Now, is that something that's new to the current position that you're in, or is that something you've been doing for a while?
Before the pandemic hit, I was working home at least like 2 days a week, which was nice, because commuting can be a bear. And then when we hit the pandemic, there were like always plans to go back to the office, but they kept getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. So one thing that attracted me to this role is like fully remote. They have offices, you can go in there, but you have to wear a mask the whole time you're in there. And I'm not ready for that yet. I don't think so. And with everything, who knows, and I'm like, yeah, maybe I'm more, I'm like, I just want to be at home. I feel like I saw someone talking about like all this stuff. We're gonna do laundry and like clean around the house. And like, we used to have to commute, and then we had like 2 days off, but we were supposed to get that stuff done on our 2 days off. How did we ever do it? And I've like thought that a million times, because I was like, I feel so much more like an efficient human being. My waistline is different, obviously, but I feel happier, that I don't have to deal with like the stresses of like trying to get to a train station, riding that train, and what train am I going to take home? And then is there going to be traffic? And like, do I have to stop at the store? And oh my God, like when do I fit my workout in? And like, I mean, all of that stuff is gone. So I feel it's a lot better.
Good. That's good. Would you say that makes you a better employee or more productive because you don't have those nuances to deal with?
Absolutely. Yeah, because like I can have kind of like uninterrupted focus time now. I do miss people. Like as a whole, I ended up meeting up some of my coworkers for the first time last week, and it was just like wild, like, holy cow, you're tall, like it's just like such a different way of life now, as far as like working is concerned. But yeah, I love it. It's honestly like I like wanted this. I wanted this like really badly, and I'm glad, yeah, that they're pretty chill about it.
Awesome, good. So tell me, what is our industry? I know when I had first started out as a designer, it was hard to describe my position, my job to family and friends. Speaking of your mom, how you speak to her every day, if she were to describe your role, how would she describe it to others? What you do?
I don't even know, but I think from what I tried to tell them is like, oh, that app on your phone? Like, yeah, the app, like any app on your phone. They're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, so I'm the person who designs like what the type looks like, what the buttons look like everything you're touching on there, that's who I am.
Okay, that makes it easy for them
Yeah.
to
I like really strip it down.
keep it simple.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the KISS method or KISS concept. All right,
Absolutely.
so what are some of the biggest challenges that you're currently facing within your role right now? Or maybe it's a project that you're working on without getting too detailed about that project. And how are you tackling that?
Challenges. It's trying to think of the challenges. They're not like, so I haven't been here that long, so I don't know how difficult it's been because I'm still kind of in the honeymoon stages. But I will say I'm managing 3 different projects at the moment. 2 are slightly related, so I can use each of their foundations to build off one another, which is nice. One has like a schedule to be delivered in the end of January. It has both. I will say this is probably one of the first times in a while where I'm like helping to make a product that also interacts with like a digital product that interacts with a physical project or a physical product. So that's kind of a new space for me. I don't think I've seen stuff, and I think we've had stuff like essentially like, how do you relate a credit card to, like a servicing app, for the organization. Yeah, but this is the first time I've kind of like been hands-on on something like that. So I'm learning a lot about this weird, crazy technology of like, hooking a code to like a person, and how does the interface interact with like the product itself, and how do you like validate identity, stuff that like I'm kind of like, oh wow, I don't know, all of my ways have been digital before. So it's like a bunch of, yeah, I'm like, I do a lot of listening, asking questions always. And yeah, like, don't ever feel bad for asking questions. I feel like sometimes we think we'll look dumb, but that's not it. It's more powerful to ask questions because people are usually super well, like, yeah, like ask me anything. I'll tell you whatever you want to know, kind of thing. So I'm always doing that, and doing that, or I'm losing my train. I'm getting tongue tied. Sorry. I was like, I'm working with a developer and he's like wicked smart, and he's like can build stuff on the like pretty fast. So yeah, I don't know. I'm in this weird stage of like listening and trying to solve problems at the same time. And then like being like, okay, I know my shit, but I know it over here, but not necessarily over here. And like, where are those, things that I can't fill in quite yet. Sorry, I got overwhelmed.
No, I like that.
I'm only human.
The next question, which is, what would you say would be one of the most important personality traits or strengths that someone would need to work in this type of industry to be successful? You talked about listening skills, for example. You also talked about how you have different people that bring their different strengths to the position. So what would you consider would be something that would make someone successful in this industry? What strength or personality trait?
That's a great question. And it's Wednesday, so they're leaf blowing. I'm gonna close this window, if you don't mind. It'll get really loud. So personality traits. like a balance. So we talked about the listening skill. There's probably like a good balance, like don't overtake the room, kind of like ask your thing and listen, like provide people the same space that you would want to be provided. It's kind of how I think about things. And don't assume that you know everything or you have the answer for everything. That's being humble is a good quality. Confidence and humble. There's got to be a balance of that as well. Being a good communicator, especially in times of like, if, you know, I imagine a bunch of us are still like doing school from home or working from home. There's a lot of stuff that can get lost in translation because you're not talking, you know, one-on-one to a lot of people in a room or in a group of people in a room. You know, a lot of stuff happens, communication over Slack and that stuff. So if you don't understand something or something like hits you the wrong way, ask them to clarify before you kind of like jump off the handle or hold that, you know, like in the back of your head is like a resentment. So I do that a lot. Like, oh, is this what you meant? Or like the way I'm interpreting it is, and so that can usually clarify a bunch of situations. There's a lot of, I'm sure there's like a lot of resources you can find out there about like how to be an effective communicator. I know I wasn't like, this is the thing I've learned after taking like workshop over workshop over workshop, of how to be better at communicating. Like I'm a direct kind of person. I don't speak in gray areas. You know, it's like, if you ask me something, it's usually like a 5-sentence answer. That's just how I am. I'm like straight into the point. And somebody gave me the nickname of like 0 to Margaret, which is totally true. Like I'm pretty chill. I'm pretty chill until you like hit that thing and I'm like, what the which is, you know, the thing that I try to have like had to like reel in a little bit, you know, depending on who I'm working with. You know, because like it's different now because even starting in a new place, I felt like super self-conscious because people at Capital One knew me, you know, and they knew that's who I was, and I'm open and I'm kind of like a little bit louder and, you know, just, I don't know, super fun, blah, blah, blah. But here I was like super self-conscious at first. So I'm like, I don't know anybody, you know, it's like being the last to be picked on a kickball team or something. That's kind of how I felt. Yeah, that's kind of how I felt. And like, that's natural. I assume as you kind of like find your footing and make new relationships with people, but in this like weird digital age. So being open and adaptable. You asked like one, I feel like I named a couple.
No, but those are all good traits. Definitely. I mean, communication, especially since a lot of students and employees are working remotely compared to being face-to-face, whether it be with the instructor or your employee or, employer or your colleagues. Communication, I would definitely say is top on the line there. And then, of course, all the other traits follow along on the same level that you mentioned. So it's definitely hard to say one thing regarding that. All right, so tell me, what do you think is one of the most underrated tools that you would consider indispensable at your job?
Indispensable. I would say, okay, there's maybe 2, and they're not going to be as cool as everybody thinks they might be. I would say since I work from home, or even if you have a space in your life or in your house, or if it's part of your bedroom, make a space that makes you happy, like where you can do work.
Okay.
I love looking out the window. So my desk sits in front of this window. So I can like kind of absorb some vitamin D. I get like a little bit of like distraction and noise and, you know, like normal everyday traffic that would happen. And then also investing in like some things that like, I have a lot of stuff hanging around here, but this is like a dual purpose where I do my makeup and then where I do everything else. But I have like a cool little thing that is from my grandma. That she got me a long time ago, and she passed in like May. And she's like one of my best friends, you know? So like she bought me this like years and years ago, and it says, believe in yourself. And I keep it near my desk. You know, because I think sometimes when I get kind of down or not confident in myself, it's a good reminder. You know, and it's like she's hanging around. And maybe something else. I bought like a really fun mechanical keyboard, which is like the best because it sounds like we're old and then like The Office in like the 90s, you know, like just not even maybe the 90s, early 2000s, like clicking around here.
That's awesome. You gotta tell me where you got that later.
Well.
Oh my gosh. So for those, if you have any questions, don't forget, make sure that you type it within the chat window. If you have any questions for Margaret, just a reminder there. All right. So a couple of other things that I want to ask you. By the way, I'm just admiring your background. I love the pink lamp or chandelier thing, your pink hair, the pink seat that you're in, the cool pink and teal color scheme going on. It's awesome. So, all right. So let's finalize it with this. If you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be?
Shirley, that's a hard-hitting question. Hey, if I could be remembered for one thing, maybe it's just I don't know, maybe I think being a good person is too generic for what I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe leading with heart, maybe, or like, you know, empathy, or I don't know, something like that.
Something like that.
Genuine, like being a genuine human, maybe something along those lines.
Gotcha. Love it. Well, I like, not one more thing. Let's talk about books. What books would you recommend to the audience and why?
Oh, okay. So there are a couple. I don't know if I have them all in here. Yeah, I do actually. Okay, so this one's pretty cool. It's called Predictably Irrational. This is pretty neat. It dives into why we have these strange habits that we have. Like a little bit of a mind, I can't swear, can I? It's a mind game. I will say it's a mind game about kind of like mind games, you know? So, you know, like, this one's pretty cool because I feel like it's the whole like tool of technology part of how, you know, there's like 4 companies in the media and they kind of own everything. Or there's 4 companies that own all the conglomerates and then shuttle down to all the channels, you know, that kind of, it's the same kind of like vibe for this, only with like digital tools, which is pretty cool. What else is there?
And would you say that ties into the whole UX UI industry?
Yeah, it does. It's kind of like, why do we make these decisions? You know, it's kind of like how we think and how we interact with stuff. And then there's another one called Users, Not Customers, which is co-authored by the CEO of Huge, which I thought was really, really good. That book starts out with him in like some sort of store, and he finds the product in the store, but then like checks online and can find it for a better deal online. So like while he's in the store standing in front of the product, gets it for a cheaper price while he's like, you know, like online, which I thought was really neat. And then it kind of like changes the way you think about people and like human behavior. I feel like there's another one. I don't know where they are right now. I have a bunch though. Oh, what was that one cool? I don't know. There's a bunch. I don't have them all. I don't have them all. Although I read like a really cool fiction book, if anyone's interested in that. I think it's called like The Kids on the Train, something about the train. I don't know. I don't know anything right now. Sorry.
Well, speaking of books, let's say your worst enemy had to write one about you. What would be the title of that book?
Oh my God. Probably something with the F word in it.
Oh.
Probably like, if I could say it, like F it, it'd probably be that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see what that book would be about.
Me too.
Oh my gosh. So what would be, on a, I don't want to say serious topic, but what would you consider would be one of your biggest failures to date? And what did you learn from that experience?
Biggest what? I'm sorry?
Failure?
Oh, yeah. as it relates to work. I have a lot. I feel like I have a long life. So I think when we touched on a little bit earlier, Kat came, he wants to hang out too. When it relates to earlier, when I talked about going 0 to Margaret, like I feel like before I took this workshop, it was called like, I think like influencing, something about communicating, right? Designing influence. I think that's what it was. Which I've done a couple of times, like a mini version of it at Full Sail, where we kind of like take a quiz and see who we are as communicators. Like there's kind of like 4 quadrants, and you can kind of belong to 2 quadrants or whatever. But before I took that, I had no idea that people, I think, like interpreted things so differently, than me. Like I think I understood it, but not to the level of what this workshop taught me. It's like different people communicate in different ways and understand things in different ways. And so when I was having we were having a horrible time with the product team, and it's because we were speaking in different languages, and I think at times it's like, why is he being a jerk? Why would he be like that? Like, he's always like, always assuming that I'm going to go into this meeting every Friday in this design review and I'm going to get a fight, and I don't want to, that stinks to feel that way. Right. And it was a hard time. And I took this workshop and realized that I was in this quadrant and the person was in this quadrant. And I'm like, we're completely different in the way that we think and in the way that we communicate. And then I understood that everybody in the room, I could start if they were systematic or, energetic or whatever, I was able to then pick out how people communicated. And then I can kind of shift the way I communicate to them, to make us work better together. It isn't about me versus you anymore. It's about how do we make this thing together? How do we both contribute, what we're looking to do? We both have the same end goal, right? But we're literally our own worst enemies. And that was I felt like I failed, I mean, in the beginning, I felt like I failed a lot because the relationship wasn't that great. And I know it was hard to work with each other because I think we were both in the same, we were kind of all in the same boat. We're okay, great. We're all going to go in this meeting. We're going to get in a fight. But after that workshop, it changed everything, which I feel I don't know, made my relationships better, made how I work with partners better. I mean, to this day, absolutely has made the way I work with everybody better. But a funny other failure, I'm just going to say this because I was going to be don't be afraid to fail. And if you fail at a job and they fire you or something for it, if they really go heavy on you, if it's a chill failure, that, it's probably a toxic workplace, right? But back in the print thing, when I was working for that agency in Harrisburg, we had Linda McMahon as a client, which is, the McMahon industry. So they were either, I think she was in office or running for office, and they were sending out a questionnaire. And so the people I worked for had her account. They were her client. Or they were one of her clients. Sorry. So I was working on this questionnaire for her and I spelled the word questionnaire wrong, but I was I didn't even notice it. Right. And that ended up the draft of it ended up going through 50 people up the chain and then back down. It was it's approved, send it out. 20 to, I don't even know, 50,000 people. Nobody ever caught the misspelling. And so that was a huge failure. I didn't get fired though. I was kind of mortified, but I was it went through 50 people and nobody checked it, nobody caught it,
yes. That was definitely a couple different layers of
yeah. I was definitely sweating it because I was I don't know what's gonna happen. That's Linda McMahon, okay.
Hey, you could always say, well, so-and-so approved it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Who finally caught the error?
It was after it got mailed. Someone had noticed it, probably when they got the physical copy.
Yeah.
I cannot believe I did that.
All right. So one more question. We're going to wrap it up here. As always, it's a pleasure talking to you.
Same.
So technology changes. As we talked about, you started off in more of a graphic design print aspect, and then it's transitioned into this manager position. And part of that has to do with change in tech. So where do you see technology is going to take what you do, and how you're going to adapt to those new tech advancements that are occurring nowadays, from augmented to virtual, changes in currency such as crypto? How are all these changes going? What do you foresee in the future, and where this industry is going to go, and how you're going to adapt to it?
I feel like AR, so VR, I think is pretty cool. However, being a person who wears glasses a lot, it's a difficult tool for me to use. But AR, I think, is super rad, because it doesn't involve, you don't have to wear anything on your face to kind of experience it. You can use like the tools that you have, like using your phone. There was for instance, I went to a winery. When I think about like AR, it's like you kind of think about it like, oh, only like people who have a lot of money are using AR, like in their experiences or doing whatever. But it's in reality, it's like everyday like things, like the merging of that like physical and digital stuff. So I went to this winery in Paso Robles. I actually went with another wholesaler, Bob Riley, but we all like hung out there, and it's a castle with like a moat kind of winery. And it's called Tooth and Nail, which is kind of like metal, which is really cool, metal in the sense of like this kind of metal. I thought I'm like, this is cool and dark and weird, and all their bottles are like weird and have like amazing designs. And I'm pretty sure they're like screen printed, or not screen printed. What's the word? What's when you press the plate? What's that?
Yeah, press. It would be.
Yeah, that whole thing, right?
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I can't remember the word for it.
Or was it etched on?
No, I can't remember. Okay, that's fine. So you could use your phone and you put it on one of the bottles, and then the bottle like comes to life. Like as you pointed there, and like you kind of like experience the bottle, and it goes through like this little scene of like, it's really cool. Like it takes that physical art and puts like a new spin on it. That is pretty sick. I know everyone's into that. That's where my passion is. And I find like a lot of excitement in that stuff, and seeing like kind of, maybe in the future, I don't know if you remember that movie Her, where they have just like the screen in front of him and he gets to like play the game and sit there and do stuff. I feel like I want that in my life. I feel like that's what I want, like, and where we might go. I don't know though. I don't know anything.
Who knows, right? Let's say one of those big companies that you mentioned earlier on are gonna, push a lot of that technology forward within our lifetime. We'll see, definitely. So, well, thank you, Margaret, so much. It was a pleasure having you on these Full Sail Live sessions. If you guys have any questions, feel free to comment down below. But if not, until then, we meet again next time. Thank you. Have a good one.
Hey, everybody. Thank you.